And we are live on the Icecast Live. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to my co-host, Ollie McMonee. How you doing, Ollie?
I'm all right. How are you, Shay?
Oh, fantastic, mate. Actually,
Good,
pretty damn good. It's been a good week. Getting lots done, being really productive. Nothing I can really talk about right now, but
you sound like our guests.
Yeah, well, yeah. Apart from obviously, for those who have been living on the moon. We have confirmed Claudia Christian of Babylon 5
even
fame for Ice this year, which I'm really chuffed about. And a lot of people will be saying, oh, that's a movie or TV person. You don't do that at Ice. Well, that's because she's launching a brand new comic. And we'll probably get the exclusive on that as well. So look out in future Ice posts or possibly on the show. We may get an exclusive announcement about the comic that she'll be launching at Ice. So exciting times, mate.
Get you, Get you.
Well, get us all. We're all part of it, mate. You included. So it's really good. It's really good news. So tonight on the show, we have a fantastic guest all the way from Belgium. I don't think we've had a guest from Belgium before, have we, Ollie? Do you know?
Well, he's not originally from Belgium,
no.
But I don't think we have had. We've had internationally. We have people who've lived in other countries other than America.
Yeah.
But maybe this is the first time we've had someone who lives in Belgium. I didn't know he lived in Belgium. That's interesting.
There you go. Yeah. So it's not like the middle of the day for him. It's actually 1 hour ahead. So that makes a change, because usually a lot of our guests are, it's like the middle of the day for them, and they've got sun shining through their windows and all that. Although we haven't got any of that today.
That's why I've got my hat on again. It's cold and the heat.
Are you actually cold?
I am very cold. I've been sitting down at my laptop for the last 2 hours, so I've not been moving around like I do in the classroom. A bit cold tonight. Hence me keep me bald head a bit warmer tonight. Keeps me headphones in as well, I find.
Yeah,
when I put these on.
So, of course, our guest tonight is Mr. Stephen B. Scott, who is an exceptionally talented artist and is currently working in the world of Doctor Who with Cutaway Comics. And we're going to be finding out all about what he's doing, and probably have a chat about other stuff as well, as we always do, what he's done in the past, and what beer he's drinking and all that sort of thing. So, Sam, if you can play the VT, please, mate, we will get on with the show. Welcome back to the Icecast Live, and welcome, Stephen. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. That intro is wonderful. Is that from your band, Shane?
It is, mate. Yeah.
Was that you?
Well, not me playing the guitar.
No,
that was Phil Winslade, actually. The artist.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Wow.
He used to be in our band. He was the original guitarist. So,
man, that's a fantastic intro. Again, look, I've already said this before we were recording, but I'll say it again so that it's recorded. Thank you guys, because you guys have entertained me through many long hours at the board. I mean, I'll sit here right at the board and I'm like, man, I want people to talk about comics with. Well, I'll just listen to some people talk some good comics in the business of comics. Well, you've done that for me in space. Thank you.
Thank you for making the effort.
I will raise the Belgian beer to you. Do what now?
You dress up for the occasion. You look a lot smarter than me or Shane. I've just got a hoodie on. And underneath my hoodie, I've got pajama bottoms on.
Can I tell you something honest? I decided last. You're kind of bald on top. You got it covered up. We're three bald men of a certain age.
Yes.
That could be the title of this for YouTube. 3 bald men of a certain age.
We do get a lot of bald men on this show, I must admit.
It might get more attention because they might think it's porn. But anyway, but back to
bald men in a cup.
Yeah. I just had a vision. but with this, yeah, I'd rather say a glass and just oh, that's a bad color for what we're anyway. Point is, no, Star Wars really got me wanting more science fiction as a young kid. I was 7 years old when Star Wars came out. No, 9 years old. And a friend of mine told me, hey, there's Star Wars comics. And I started looking for comics. Before then, I experimented with comics. God, it sounds like drugs. I experimented with comics.
Yeah. But it's a similar addiction.
It's better for you. Comics are a little bit better for you. Unless you go into it as a profession. Maybe not then. My mom was always right. I should have gone into drafting. But anyway, I was really seeking out more Star Wars comics. And I found then in the time period that I was collecting and starting, there was ROM Space Knight just started. Micronauts and Battlestar Galactica with those Walt Simonson stories and art. Yeah.
Great stuff.
And then I picked up the Warren magazines when I went to the newsstand. I picked up Heavy Metal magazine, and there's a ROM cover I did. I was lucky enough to do.
Wow.
I did some work for IDW before, and I was at a convention with Chris Ryle and Mike Grell. I was touring with him and was handling his tour. And he says, man, can you talk to Mike Grell about him doing a ROM cover? I said, sure. And I said, I'll do one too. So,
that was the deal breaker.
That's how I got that. And damn it, we got to work like that sometimes, But I was like, man, I want to do. And that was beautifully colored, by the way, by Laverne Kanzierski, my favorite colorist. He's from Canada. He worked on the Graveyard Book adaptation that I did. Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book with P. Craig Russell. He was the colorist, worked with me there, and then after that we worked a lot together, since then. So anyway, but that's what got me into comics, mainly science fiction and horror. Right. And then I discovered the superheroes after.
I think that's a common source, isn't it? A lot of us got into comics of a certain age. It was probably through Star Wars or something similar to that, something that in the public domain that wasn't specifically about comics, and then we discovered comics through that property. I think that's quite a common.
Well, we all had the spinner rack. I mean, we had them over in Britain as well, and the spinner racks were you could get 2 or 3 months worth of Superman.
I know, yes.
It was quite amazing.
I remember going to a 7-Eleven, they called them there. It was like a little tiny mart that, and this particular one, whoever was supposed to restock it was not good at pulling the old ones and putting in the new. They just kept adding new and kept the old ones there. And they'd be bent almost in half. I didn't care. I had like a run of 3 issues of John Byrne X-Men in a row for 40 cents each. And I'm like, I don't care that there's a bend in it. I just paid for even then 40 cents was only 40 cents.
Yeah. Those are the days.
I would have had to pay a whole $2.50 if I mail ordered it. Oh. Yeah, those were the days. But that's the generation that we were in, and that will not come back. It's a whole new generation. I brought up something because it was in conversation earlier. This manga, look at this gigantic phone book of manga.
That's the way to do it, man.
This is the new generation that the kids now are, I say kids, teenagers and et cetera, picking. It's not going to have I've got to do this cover. I'm not Tony Harris. Oh my God. Tony Harris just did a beautiful job on that book. Oh,
he was a great artist.
It was almost like Drew Struzan was doing the
cover. I was going to say.
Except for the one except for the one you're showing now. That's me. But George Lucas,
this is your show, so we're going to show your art.
It's what I can do.
Tony Harris who?
Yeah, Tony Harris who. But George Lucas did buy that cover, and he also bought all of issue 2 of the issue. And that was the thing with George Lucas. He's got like a first right of refusal. So if he likes it, he wants to buy it, and he buys it all or whatever. So that's pretty good. It's extra money.
In George Lucas's house, in his sprawling mansion, hopefully not in the toilet.
I was going to say, is it up in the
No, I do not care if it's hanging in his closet. Here's the thing I told people, and I found out from somebody that's been to George Lucas's Lucas Studios. They said that he does hang all the artwork up everywhere.
Excellent.
Like the comic art, you name it, is hanging somewhere. And I don't care if I'm in a utility closet hanging up in George Lucas Lucas Studios. I'm there.
It's more than what most people have achieved, isn't it? Let's face it.
Hey, guys, I just disconnected my microphone accidentally. Hold on a second.
It's okay. We can still hear you.
I think you probably got a built-in mic but he can't hear us. Well,
there we go.
Well,
we have to have a technical. We have to have a technical difficulty. That was mine. Sorry about that.
On our
no problem.
I couldn't hear you guys, your wonderful voices anymore. I was like, I've been moving my hand around too much. Anyway, so yeah, but that's again, that's my start. You know, I first started working for Malibu Comics back in 1994, and then after that went into more of the independents. I did a lot of work on Razor for London Night Studios, and that built up. I really, sort of sharpened my teeth on Razor. You know, I mean, I always say to everybody, you need about 1,000 pages in sequential pages before you're good enough for publication. I unfortunately was about 500. And so that gave me my extra, to get better,
Yeah. That's an interesting number.
How did you get the gig at Malibu then?
There was some people living. I was from Biloxi, Mississippi, and there were some people up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi that I befriended. They were working with a guy who was from Mississippi who was an editor there, Roland Mann. And Roland, and it was Ultraverse. So at the time, man, I tell you, that's when the time I knew I made it. And I was a full-time firefighter doing my samples. So I had, you have to have an income coming in while you're doing comics at the beginning. Well, sadly these days, even at the end, you still have to have an income coming in from somewhere. I'm lucky. But anyway, Roland was from Mississippi. He looked at my stuff. He hired me probably before I was ready, but it was nice to be hired and nice to be doing work. And I knew I made it because I was like, George Perez works for Malibu Ultraverse. And I said, I'm getting a paycheck from the same place George Perez does. And that's how I defined, I finally made
it. We have an ex-Malibu artist in the comments, actually. I'm just going to pick this comment out. A little one from Mike Perkins, who you might know.
Oh man, Mike Perkins.
Oh, nice one, Mike.
I thought
I was the play on word master, but that one's a good one.
Yeah, Mike Perkins is absolutely the best. I mean, and I'm talking about like the best in our business. You've got in the UK, you've got some of the best artists. Simon Colby, you familiar with his work?
Yeah, and Simon.
Brilliant. Well, Mike Perkins is another bit of absolute brilliance, a modern day master. Oh, I love him, and he's a great guy too.
He is. He lives in this town where I live. Actually, we're.
Yeah, he used to live when I first met him. He was living in Florida, and we got to talking. Then he had his green card. He was living there working for CrossGen, I think. Yeah. But he had already done lots of work for Caliber Comics and all that. Was even his earliest work is fantastic.
It was CrossGen, wasn't it? Not Malibu. I got it wrong.
Yeah, he was CrossGen.
How could I get that wrong?
He might have been Malibu too. You don't understand. He was doing work for Caliber.
I'm sure he'll correct me now. We'll go, how could you say that, Shane? How many times have we talked about CrossGen?
I think it was CrossGen that got Mike over to Florida. That made
it was CrossGen, doesn't it? CrossGen made everybody move to that location, and exactly. I wish I wasn't part of that little thing at that time, but I really wish I could have been because even though it all failed, but it would have been nice to be in the studio, with all those people. That'd have been really fun.
It sounded like an amazing place while it was, in its heyday. It really did. It sounded like a great place to be. Lots of creativity and lots of great artists and, writers. It was, fantastic from what I can tell from the stories I've heard from Mike.
But Malibu also had its moment in the sun as well, didn't it? I mean, obviously, Marvel must have been shitting their pants a little bit if they felt we have to buy this comic company.
Right. Well, they had already established that Photoshop studio there that was really successful, and also they were
traditional comic publishing and Kickstarter is that in traditional comics it's always number one is the big seller, and then it just sort of goes down. Whereas in Kickstarter it goes the other way. Whatever you get with number one, chances are you're gonna.
But it's about surviving that issue one. The problem I see with a lot of Kickstarter, like look, if you've got 100 backers, I know how many hours it takes at the board to create one of these. I know how many hours. And then you have to give yourself about a month of that. Your full-time job is the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It's promoting it. If your time is money, that issue one better. Oh man, it's tough.
Big investment.
It's not easy what we do. Why do we do it? We're nerds and we
love it.
We love it. That's why we do it.
You've got to love it. You've got to love it, mate. That is the thing. I mean, anyone who's working in comics, if they're doing it for money, they're in the wrong business. You've got to have the love. Even if you're making money, you still got to have the love.
You've got to.
It's long hours, isn't it?
It's long hours at the board, but I mean, But I'll give you an example though. Like getting back to the Cutaway Comics, I got the new script in for what I'm working on now, and both the Eldrad project I did for them is based off of the Hand of Fear from the Doctor Who era. Are you familiar with Doctor Who?
Oh,
I think I know the answer to this. Anyway,
have you got some of that artwork?
I think it's from your country.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I got. Oh no, that's a cover I did for Vorp, which is the same. That's Gareth and them from Cutaway Comics. They do this absolutely amazing fanzine. Oh my God! What? Oh! Here's speaking of phone books. Here's like one of their issues right here. Look how thick that is.
Look at that.
And the page is
that's a good sturdy cover. Wow.
Yeah.
I've got that. I think I brought that from the publisher at a convention.
I think that's nice.
I think this issue had like a Brian Bolland unpublished Doctor. Point is, they do beautiful work. So I was lucky to do that. And then the work with Eldrad is associated with the fourth Doctor, Tom Baker. And it was written by Bob Baker, who wrote a lot of those episodes of Tom Baker. Right. And it's based off Hand of Fear, which he wrote. There was something dealing with how the licensing rights went to the writers back in the 70s, where if they created a concept,
Terry Nation,
it was theirs. Yeah,
yes.
I remember they couldn't use the Daleks under Christopher Eccleston because of the Terry Nation. And I think, if I remember rightly, Terry Nation passed away, so his estate said, "Of course you can use the Daleks. It'd be silly not to."
Right. Yeah. And so that's how we were able to do Eldrad. And it was with Bob Baker as the writer. Now, he wrote the script, but it had to be converted to comics. And then not long after that, he passed away. He took a fall and he passed away. So I was like the last person to work with him. Wow. Blessed and happy to, wonderful to, like I said, wonderful to be able to work with him. Now, Ian Winterton wrote a Drax story, also who appeared in the fourth Doctor's Doctor Who with Tom Baker. He was the only person that ever named the Doctor with anything. Back when he and the Doctor were in school together, his nickname was Feet. And Drax was the one that called him, "Hey, Fate, how you doing?" He says, "Oh, it's wonderful." But so anyway, this is actually a Time Lord, series I've started. I've just got on, and it's amazingly written. It's wonderfully written. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Cutaway's doing some amazing stuff, and it comes back to I just love working on good comics.
Yeah,
and it's science fiction, it's
science
horror,
fiction,
and it's connected with Doctor Who.
Hey, what more can you want? And we've got some of it to show, haven't we, Sam? I saw some Cutaway comics.
Yeah, there's some Cutaway stuff in here. Yeah,
come on, Sam, bring it up. He's shaking his head in the studio, but I've seen the Cutaway covers.
I got some. Oh, no, that's actually from my work with Mike Grell on The Pilgrim. Yeah. That's me inking over Mike Grell. That's something else. I sent him a lot of stuff we can talk about, and that's something we can talk about. Mike, I'll be working with Mike Grell again, I think, towards the end of the year,
cool.
Talking to Mike.
He's a bit of a legend, isn't he?
A little bit.
Yeah,
that's a serious
There's the evidence now, Mike. Here's the evidence now, right in front of us.
And this was inked from Mike's layouts, as in they were breakdown layouts, very rough, but I know how to dissect what Mike would have done. Yeah. And so I had to finish it up. But he's a legend. He's a brilliant genius legend, Mike Grell.
You can certainly see Mike Grell's artwork still within, though, because your inking style on that is very smooth, isn't it? And whereas Mike Grell, when he does his own inking, can be a bit more rough around the edges. But that's, I'm looking at that spherical layout. That's a very Mike Grell layout. You can see it in the anatomy of the bald fella clutching the woman. It's very Mike Grell, but equally you've been able to stamp your own style over it, I think. So.
I know how to draw ball fellas.
Yeah. Man.
but the thing is, I consider myself to be like a rough inker. I mean, you'll see a combination of brush and pen in there. I'm not a clean inker by any means, and
that looks clean to me. That looks nearly clean.
Oh no, I wish. Anyway, but Mike, I learned so like as a kid. He was another one I picked up. Speaking of science fiction and horror, I mean, I was a fan of Warlord. I mean, he was down, in Atlantis and in the center Middle Earth. It was wonderful what Mike Grell did and still does. And we're going to be doing some more work. He said something about Maggie the Cat. We're going to work on together again. Cool. Also, this series, The Pilgrim, needs to also be finished. So I'll be working with him again on that as well.
Wow, there's a lot going on, mate.
Ink slapping, as I call it. That's a piece I did. Well, I did
comics.
Look, I think it's popular all the time. I think, I mean, really, it doesn't go out of style. In my opinion, horror comics don't, and science fiction really doesn't go out of style.
People always want that stuff. Yeah.
Right. Now, this that's up here right now, I know, is a sample. Here, look, I wrote my own Judge Dredd story, and I decided, look, I want to finish it and then submit it to 2000 AD. One of the things that I have not been able to break that, I want to, look, I've drawn Batman, I've drawn X-Men with Chris Claremont. I want to work on 2000 AD. I want to have something in there. And I thought, well, I'll start off with Judge Dredd, and maybe they'll let me do just something else after that. But I wanted to start doing some of that. And that's I haven't taken it to Inkship because I got these other 2 projects. There's only one.
Those backgrounds are lovely, though. Look at that detail.
Well, that's just having fun. Look, that's just me having actually fun and not. And it doesn't have to be anything particular. That's the beauty of science fiction. There's no referencing for that.
We had PJ Holden on here a few weeks ago, and he said it took him a good few years regularly drawing Judge Dredd until he found his Judge Dredd. Each artist, I think, they eventually want to draw their version of Judge Dredd. A little tweak here, a little tweak there. So eventually, I suppose, you go, oh, that's a PJ Holden Judge Dredd. That's a Brian Boland Judge Dredd. That's a Mick McMahon Judge Dredd.
I completely agree with that.
Start working on your Dredd then, Steve.
I agree. Well, I got to work on Dredd for IDW. Matter of fact, I'm actually on the cover. I'm on the cover with the whole creative team as a judge. I didn't do the cover. Somebody else did the cover, but I've got to.
That's cool.
But the thing is, it had to be done in a style that was cohesive with what was being done with the IDW version. Yeah. And it wasn't really what I would have done. It's one of those things where, and so I played along with the game, but this I would be proud of. That's how I would do it right now.
That is proper 2000 AD.
I look forward to seeing
the IDW stuff. Just seems to be watered down in comparison, and maybe it's because it was a license they were already running for a few years. Well, they had some exciting stories through IDW, I must admit.
Oh yeah, I was proud to be a part of it, and but I wanted to get a chance to do it my way, and so I wrote the story, and then a novelist, Eamon Torrey, I had him script it. Actually, I didn't. I sent it to him and said, "Would you consider it?" He came back with a great script for this thing. So I already wrote it. I plotted it. I sent him all the layouts for this thing. He came back, and he again is a science fiction novelist. And I can't wait to finally get it done. After I get all this other work done, I'm going to get back to that for a little bit because I want to get it and send it. Simon Colby is a good friend that sent me the template because it's a different shape. The 2000 AD is a different dimension.
Yeah.
And what else is being done, guys? There's the 77. What else is being done in that shape?
Oh, loads of stuff. I mean, over here, most comics usually are produced in that format, the British format, if you want to call it that. But more and more British publishers are using the American format because they understand that if they want to sell to the States, they need to go in that form. If they want to get into Diamond, all that sort of thing.
British publisher. So and
77, yes, they do publishing, but the 77 is very much in the vein of 2000 AD. I mean, completely inspired by 2000 Ad.
So, they don't lie about it. It's done on purpose.
Yeah, they wear it on their sleeve.
I'm excited about the fact that they do that. I mean, I think that's just wonderful. But is there another one? Is there any other one?
Well, you've got Judge Dredd Mega.
I don't realize that that's how to do it.
Sam's showing us this for some reason. I think this was published by Crisis.
Again started on
Garth
Crisis.
Ennis and Warren
So you had that whole second generation of comic book creators that weren't Alan Moore or Brian Boland doing stuff on Crisis before then dipping their toes in America.
Man, I've never heard of it, and thank you for this. I mean, this is something I didn't know. I thought I knew a lot of stuff, but I didn't.
You've heard of Deadline as well, which is where Tank Girl got her start. And Deadline was more of a magazine /
that was a really big format. Yeah, that was a big format. It was bigger than A4. It was like a wide magazine format, wasn't it? Really cool.
But what happens, I think, is, again, people, if they don't have a way to either display or box it or shelve it, they don't want it.
There's a lot of people like that, yeah.
the manga collections, like my girlfriend has got manga collections up on her shelf, of things, and they're all a particular size and format, and they all go together really well on the shelf.
Yeah.
And then again, with the American comic format, I enjoy a magazine format. I like me, I'm the bigger the better. And of course, at our age, with glasses, we want big print.
You're
but,
right.
But, even when I was a kid, I enjoyed a great big magazine. To open that thing up, and it's just a big, oh man, we had the Treasury editions from Marvel and DC Comics.
They were great. Yeah.
Oh. The Savage Storage of Conan, the Warren comics, all the stuff we were talking about at the top of the show. These were big comics. And again, the black and white artwork, it didn't need color to saturate it out.
You still don't need
drawing for black and white.
But what I really miss, I wish we had that off-white newsprint paper, or at least off-white.
It's so expensive now.
It's too expensive.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
But man, I give anything. I'll open up those Warren magazines just to read with the paper with the off-white and the black. It's another color. But but the glossy white is not as good. I don't like glossy. A lot
of artists, their work doesn't look as good on glossy paper. You're talking about earlier about John Byrne. I think his art never recovered from losing newsprint. It looked awesome in newsprint.
I agree with you. And now you say, oh, that's too. Okay, I'm going to use a term that doesn't apply to what I like. I love John Byrne's work. Everything. It looks too cartoony with the bright white behind it.
Yeah.
But not to me. I love cartooning. Like I said, with the stuff I want to do for 2000 AD, it's me just popping up out of my head. I want to draw monsters and big, buff, fighting guys and sexy women, but in an more animated style and more cartoony. Right now, I mean, I'm able to do everything from very realistic horror or crime genre. I mean, I did work for Titan Comics. I did a lot of covers for them, like. I sent him some, but I did like Triggerman and Peatland and it covers. But in addition, I did Normandy Gold. I did a 5-issue series. Now I didn't do the cover to this. It's a beautiful cover.
Yes, it's a great cover, isn't it?
Oh, I love the cover. But I did this work, Normandy Gold, and it's done like again, crime. I better be careful what I show because some of this. But there's 1970s orgies in this thing. Again, I got to do my research, fellas.
You got to do.
Anyway,
I'd love to see your browser history. It's all research, honestly. It's research, Governor.
Honestly, Ollie, I got to tell you this: any comic book artist has got a crazy browser history. When I did Independence Day for Titan, I did the first issue of Independence Day, and it took place in a nuclear submarine. I'm having to research whether inside of a nuclear submarine, and I'm thinking. If any government, they're like, why is he doing this?
Okay.
What's he, it could be looked at really weird. Look at that cover to Toxic.
Yeah, that was another large format.
Yes.
And we were talking about large format.
Oh, I love that.
We've got Shift at the moment, which is a really cool format because
I've
it's
seen
large.
Shift. Yeah.
It's large, but it's still the American ratios. So it could be, that stuff can be repurposed for the American audience.
No, when you say that, you mean it's magazine size? Because the American ratio for comics is just the comic
so it's the same ratio, but it's larger. So it could be shrunk down and still fit in an American comic.
I know what you're saying now. Yeah, it could be reprinted. Well, see, that's the other thing I think about really that what we need to be doing in comics is a little bit more in the anthology stories that can be repurposed. Let's say a horror content, a science fiction content. Yeah. But if you're thinking in terms of just doing something that's like a 120 page, that's hard to sell again later to repurpose and sell. Yeah. But I think some short story horror, short story science fiction, content is difficult and sometimes expensive to be had or time consuming. Let's say you're doing a Kickstarter and you're saying, I got a horror book, but I want to fill in more content. If somebody's already got it ready to go, you can sell it to them for a limited price and at least get some more money back, reoccur some more money for you.
Little 4-8 page stories. You can
4 to 8 page.
Those. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can republish those over and over. And that's why we encouraged people with Dead by Dawn when we did that. It was all 4-page stories. The idea was the guys who contributed owned the copyright to those stories.
Exactly.
So after they'd been in Dead by Dawn, they can take it anywhere they like, and hopefully that's what people have done.
Well, that to me, I think is a winning idea of how to do it. I think that to me, that's a good strategy. That's not done as much as it should be anymore. It used to be done that way.
I think maybe people are a little bit precious about it, perhaps. I don't know, but it's just use your strips.
A lot of writers don't know how to wrap up a story. That's why they write stories so big. But a good writer knows how to wrap stuff up in about 4 to 8 pages. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
That was the other reason. That was the other reason we asked for 4 pages. Was just to sort of discipline people, if you like, with their stories and say, "Come on, let's see if you can do a whole story in 4 pages." And fair play, they all did.
Good.
We've got some more comments. I'm going to catch up on comments because we've been chatting and enjoying the chat and not paying any attention to the comments.
See, I don't even see any on mine. I don't see anything. Yeah, you guys are getting.
I'll bring them up. So Scott Hoverman, don't forget that amazing work on Vampirotica. What's all that about, Steve?
Vampirotica. I think I did. Yeah, I did some work for Brainstorm Comics called Vampirotica. Look, I've got a very wide and varied list of things I've done in my past.
I tell you what.
And it all paid me money. It all paid me money.
What I was reminded about the other day, and I don't know why it popped into my mind, but it reminded me about Penthouse Comics when they released an anthology, and a lot of great big name artists, Dave Johnson and people like that, they were working on this comic, and my goodness me, it was very racy to say the least.
But let me tell you, I lived in Atlanta, and some of these guys are my friends.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay, the good thing about comics and the bad thing sometimes it's all based on page rates. Well, these days sometimes they need to call it day work rate instead. So this way, $30 sounds like it's actually slave labor as opposed to $500. You know what I mean? But let's just say they paid a really good page rate, Penthouse Comics.
I can.
And the quality of the work. Oh my God, Jason Pearson. And Adam Hughes and. Brian Stelfreeze.
It might have all been cock and tits, but my goodness me, they were the best looking cock and tits in comics because you had so many great artists. I don't know whether that's the right thing to say, but from an art point of view, it was fucking amazing.
Ollie, I already knew I liked you before I met you. Now I know I like you.
There we go. There's some Vampirotica for you.
There we go. God, that's going back a while, isn't it?
No, that's not my work, but that is Vampirotica. That's what he was talking about. I did do a lot of covers for them and some other artwork for Brainstorm, but it was that character with that hair. That was Kirk Lindo's character with artwork, but I did that ornamental hair as well. But that goes way back for me. That's like my early stuff.
Now here's a question then, Steve, from rewinding a bit where we were talking about the newspaper print, because obviously a lot of artists of that generation grew up drawing, knowing they were getting printed on newspaper print. Do you think, as an artist who's grown up without working in that era, do you think that's led to a revolution in the kind of detail of art that's now available and now able to be seen in comics? And I'm thinking particularly David Mazzucchelli changed his style for Batman Year One because he knew it was going to be a newsprint.
My friend, that's on my shelf. Yes, knowing what it's going to be printed on. I did a strip called The Call of the Earth for a publisher in Spain that was on in a newspaper. Like they'd show me pictures. I never got a chance to get one, but they showed me because I needed to know because I was doing the artwork and coloring everything. And talking about Will Eisner. He's like there's Will Eisner, then Mike Ploog. Yeah, man, that's fantastic. Oh, Mike, you did it again, man. You got me all envious.
No, man.
I was just rereading a load of Ploog stuff.
By the way, I'm very honored to have this. I've got a Mike Perkins Ruse double page spread from his cross-gen days.
Yeah.
And I was and talk about, I got the better deal on this. We did it through an art trade, he and I. And it's Mike Perkins. It's a pride of my collection. My girlfriend, even going through my art, said, we were thinking about what we're going to finally hang in our apartment, and it's like, oh yeah, this one. Even she said, oh yeah, this one. I said, yes, my love, this one.
If anyone's wondering why Ollie's name is suddenly turned to gibberish, what it is, Benji has invaded the studio, and I can see him now fighting with his dad in the studio.
It's just not very professional, is it?
And he's changed the name on the screen.
I think it's pretty nice because it makes.
I like it with the hashtag. Actually, it makes me look cool.
It's part of the show. Let's face it. You're right there, Sam. You're looking a bit. I can see Sam in the studio looking like he's just gone 2 rounds with the Punisher.
So, what did Mike Perkins take off you then, Steve, in the trade?
I can't remember. I mean, at the time, I might have been working on...
Mike can drop it in the comments now.
Well, I don't... He might not even have it. He might not even remember. But it was... It could have been X-Men. I mean, I'd been working on so many things. Like I said, I had my lucky days in comics.
It's going back quite a while, isn't it? If he had...
Yeah, quite a while. Yeah, and the fact that he still had any pages from Rouge.
Yeah.
So it had to be about that time.
Well, listen, he puts his Swamp Thing stuff online, and it's sold out within moments of going up there. And he's like killing it on Swamp Thing, and that's a great horror comic. Then Ramsey's a great horror writer.
Number one, a brave thing. We couldn't have done this back in the day because I don't think coloring could have adapted to it. But he's been using those washes, and sometimes I think he says he uses a charcoal or pencil. I think. And Mike Perkins is listening, so he could probably correct me on this, but I think he's using something else. But I wish they would also publish that after he's said and done each season as a collected black and white. And also it would mean some extra money for him as well if they did that.
I think a few of us have made that suggestion.
And DC Comics is the best publisher there is on paying royalties. So Mike, if you haven't already suggested that to him, tell him that the world is asking for it.
Man,
the black and white would sell, definitely. And also an artist's edition. I would love I know DC don't do those, but an artist's edition of Swamp Thing. Oh my God.
Done by Mike Perkins.
I'd love to see that.
Oh, every time he posts another thing, it's just glorious.
Yeah.
Sorry about all this extra admiration, Mike, but we can't help to give it to you because you deserve it.
I think we've caught up on the comments. There's a few other comments on there, but they're all mostly it's just exclamations, really.
Well, I'll ask you, whilst you're looking at the comments, I'll ask you the stupid question we always ask any artist. In your varied career, obviously Judge Dredd you want to take a bite at. Is there any other, maybe European comics, now that you live over in Europe, that you'd really love to have a go at? Even something left field like Tintin, for God's sake. What floats your boat?
First, I've already had a go at Judge Dredd, only this time I want to get a chance to really get a chance to do it right. Not for an American publisher, but for, and I loved getting to do what I did, but I'd really love to do, it with 2000 AD. As far as like a European volume, one of the things I really want to do is an anthology style series of science fiction horror. There's a character I have that I want to do this my own. But in order to do it as an artist, you've got to have some kind of income coming in outside of drawing. In other words, I want to do, like what I mentioned, those adult coloring books.
Yeah.
Get some revenue from Amazon on that to where okay, this month I don't have to draw for anyone else to make my money. I'm going to work on my thing because I've got, some background money coming in through sales on Amazon. That's what I need to do to make it happen. The time it takes to do this stuff. I don't have to tell you to, and it's not like you can, it's not like you can have a full-time daytime job and you come home and say, okay, I've worked for 8 hours today and it's drained me. Now I'm going to work another 16 hours at the board.
This is the thing. Yeah.
You can't do that.
Especially as you get to our age, it gets hard. I mean, I remember doing stuff like that. I remember when
I do too.
And you can't do it forever. I remember when I first started organizing conventions, I was working 12-hour shifts in my day job and then doing, basically 8 hours organizing the convention and then sleeping for 3 hours. And I did that for years, and you just can't do it. It's just
in my 20s. In my 20s, I was a firefighter, and I was working for London Night Studios. I was working for Malibu. I was working for also DC Comics for part of it. And so I was working between 42 to 72 hours, 48 hours a week or 72 hours a week at the fire department. But then on my days off, I was working another 40, 50 hours a week or more doing comics.
Yeah.
I can't do that now. No. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, you just can't do it.
And most people I talk to here in Europe, they're like, "You did what?" Because they're not designed to work that kind of schedule either. They're in their 20s, and I tell them I worked no less than 100 hours per week when I was in my 20s,
Yeah.
And they're like, huh?
They didn't get it, man.
It must be an American thing. It's an American thing.
Oh, it's an American thing. Oh,
it's a British thing as well. We're the same.
It's a British thing as well, yeah.
No, it is. No, not as mad. The Americans don't have half as many holidays as us.
They don't.
It's just the system seems to be about work, and then drop dead at 65 or whatever. I've never understood it. You've got
55.
55. So
and there's no health care, so that's why I'm saying 55.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
I'm tossing that in.
Yeah.
Why do you think I stayed in the fire department all that time? They had health care.
Of course. Yeah. You must have. How did moving to Belgium then change the way you worked? Because it's clearly
yes and no, but I don't still utilize. I can put this. I still work for companies in America. Yes. The only difference is that I'm actually in a city where I can walk 30 seconds from my front door to the grocery store. Mm-hmm. I can walk 20.
You don't have to drive everywhere.
Right. I can walk a 20-minute walk. You know, and my age and the fact that I make my money sitting down at the board on my butt. So I don't get any extra. So I can walk to my printer, a 21-minute walk. I mean, I already know how much it's going to take me to get there by walking. So that's where the difference lies. Is it's a healthier world, healthier atmosphere.
Yeah, and it's funny actually. Mike said that when he moved back to the UK.
Yeah,
when he was living in Florida, he said you just have to drive everywhere.
You've got to.
Pain.
They don't make it. They don't make it to where you can just walk anywhere. Sometimes you won't have sidewalks. It's like you'd have to either walk in the grass or the street, or. But here, you can do that. That's where the difference lies. I would say. And I feel a little bit healthier because of that. But again, I feel as healthy as I can at 54.
Yeah. Well, hey, don't we all? At least you haven't got all that corn syrup in everything you eat now that you live in Belgium.
Oh, no, you're right about that. But the other thing I found out, and I've been telling my girlfriend about, I miss a really juicy American steak because the meat, I think that the beef is so properly fed here that it doesn't have the same amazing taste as like a nice T-bone steak does in the States. and you have to experience what I'm talking about to know what I mean.
Right.
But the meat is different here. And not as tasty, but probably healthier.
Oh yeah. Maybe the taste is the fear the animal goes through when it's processed in America.
I mean, I remember when last time I was in the States, I saw an American steak and just thought, people eat that? It was like that thick.
Yes.
I've never seen anything like it.
There's nothing wrong with what you just described. Yes. Yes.
I don't eat red meat, so I wasn't able to make a judgment, It looked incredible though.